Amara stood before the mirror, clad in a simple robe. Her hair was only partially styled, and she couldn't resist checking her phone repeatedly. Excitement and a touch of apprehension filled her heart. Tonight was the night of the Legos Elite Charity Gala, the city's most significant fashion event. For the very first time, Amara had received an invitation in her own name, through her company. It felt like a dream she had tirelessly pursued. Her phone buzzed, a message from her mother, Mrs. Johnson. "Vanessa is letting you borrow her stylist," it read. "Please don't embarrass your sister tonight. Remember, people will be watching." Amara sighed, her mother's words always echoing the same concern for Vanessa's image, never hers. Before she could even begin to type a response, the door swung open, and Vanessa breezed in, laughing and holding a garment bag. "Amara, you don't mind if I borrow your gown, do you? It's the same designer as mine anyway, and mine had a little accident." Amara's smile vanished, her heart sinking. That gown, her gown, was the one she had spent 3 long months saving for. "Vanessa, that's mine. I've been planning this." Vanessa smirked. "You'll look fine in something else. I'll tag the designer when I post. That'll help you out, too." And before Amara could utter another word, Vanessa was gone, leaving a heavy silence in her wake. The apartment felt strangely empty. Amara sat on her bed, staring at the empty hanger where her gown should have been. Tears welled in her eyes, but she fought to remain calm. Her phone rang. It was her best friend, Grace. "Grace, please tell me you didn't let her take it." "I didn't let her, she just did," Amara whispered. Amara lay back on her bed, staring at the ceiling. A few minutes later, she opened her phone. On social media, Vanessa had already posted a picture, radiant and smiling in the gown Amara had worked so hard for, ready for the gala in a Tommy Attawale original. Amara stared at the post for a long, silent moment. Her chest ached, but her tears stopped. Slowly, she turned off her phone. Her face was calm now, too calm. Something in her eyes had changed. There was pain, yes, but beneath it, a quiet strength began to emerge. Amara and Vanessa grew up in a home where appearances and image were everything. Their mother, Mrs. Johnson, was always preoccupied with how others perceived her family. She often said, "People only respect you when you look like someone worth respecting." Vanessa was the favored child, beautiful, charming, and always knowing how to command attention. Her mother called her "my star" and encouraged her into modeling and social circles from a young age. Everyone praised Vanessa for her beauty and confidence. Amara, on the other hand, was quiet and reserved. She loved books and photography and didn't pay much attention to fashion or makeup, which often caused her mother to sigh and shake her head. "Amara, try to be more like your sister," she would often say. When Vanessa won the title of Miss Teen Legos, the whole family celebrated. Amara stood behind the camera, capturing photos of her sister smiling under the bright lights. No one noticed her in the corner, holding back her own emotions. At family dinners, Mrs. Johnson would proudly boast about Vanessa's latest photo shoots, her parties, and her grace. Then she would turn to Amara and say things like, "You're the practical one, Amara. You think too small." Those words stung, even though Amara pretended not to care. After years of feeling invisible, Amara finally decided to create her own path. She moved into a small apartment in Lagos and found a job at a growing company. Her salary wasn't much, but she worked diligently and saved carefully. Every small success felt like a step closer to freedom. Her dream was simple, to stand on her own and be recognized for who she truly was. When she received the invitation to the Lagos Elite Charity Gala through her company, it felt like her chance. She wanted to attend not as someone's sister, but as herself. So, she spent months saving to buy a Tommy Attawale gown, a beautiful limited edition dress she had admired since she first saw it online. Meanwhile, Vanessa's life looked perfect on social media. Designer clothes, fancy parties, and constant attention. But in reality, she was struggling. The modeling jobs had slowed down, and she relied on wealthy men and superficial friendships to maintain her glamorous image. Grace, Amara's best friend, saw everything clearly. She admired Amara's kindness and hard work. Whenever Amara compared herself to Vanessa, Grace reminded her of her own worth. "Your sister's living off attention," Grace would say. "You're living off progress. Don't confuse noise with success." Those words always resonated with Amara. She didn't crave fame or envy. She simply wanted respect, especially from her mother. But deep down, she still longed for the day when her mother would look at her and say, "I'm proud of you." As the gala approached, Amara felt both excited and apprehensive. This was her opportunity to show that she had grown, that she was no longer the quiet girl standing in her sister's shadow. She didn't need to outshine Vanessa. She just wanted to be seen for who she truly was. But she had no idea that the same sister who had always stolen her spotlight would once again find a way to take what she had worked so hard for. The next morning, Amara's phone rang. It was a call from the assistant of designer Tommy Attawale. The assistant politely reminded her about her fitting appointment, the one where they were supposed to finalize the hemline of her gown. Amara's stomach tightened. She took a deep breath before answering. "I'm afraid the gown isn't with me anymore. My sister took it." There was silence on the other end of the line. Then the assistant spoke carefully. "Madam, Mr. Tommy himself has asked that you come to the studio this afternoon. He said it's urgent." Amara blinked, unsure what to think. After everything that had happened, she didn't know if she should feel scared or hopeful, but something in the assistant's voice made her decide to go. Later that afternoon, Amara arrived at the Tommy Attawale studio. The building was bright and full of life. Mannequins dressed in shining fabrics, tailors working quickly, and the faint sound of soft music. She felt nervous as she walked in. The designer himself, Tommy Attawale, came out to meet her. He looked calm but curious. In his hand, he held a tablet with a picture of Vanessa wearing the stolen gown. "Is this your sister?" Tommy asked. "Yes," Amara said quietly. "She came here this morning. She said the dress was hers. She even claimed you were her assistant." Amara's cheeks flushed with shame. Her hands trembled slightly as she tried to speak. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Attawale. That's my dress. I didn't think she'd actually do something like that." For a moment, Tommy said nothing. He just studied her. The worry on her face, the honesty in her voice. Then slowly he smiled. "Good, because the dress she took wasn't your real order." Amara looked up, confused. "What do you mean?" Tommy gestured for her to follow. "The one she took was only the sample version, something we use for display. Your real gown, the final one, has upgraded fabric and custom embroidery. It's ready upstairs." Amara's eyes widened. "My real gown," she whispered. Tommy led her to a private fitting room. When she stepped inside, she stopped in awe. Hanging in front of her was the most beautiful gown she had ever seen. The fabric shimmered softly under the light, and every stitch looked perfect. It was elegant, graceful, and completely hers. Tommy turned to her with a gentle smile. "Sometimes life dresses imposters first, so the right one can shine last." Amara stood still, speechless. Her heart felt lighter than it had in days. She reached out and touched the gown, her eyes filling with tears, not of sadness this time, but of quiet gratitude. She realized then that maybe, just maybe, things were beginning to turn in her favor. Amara sat on her bed, staring at the gown hanging by the window. It shimmered beautifully in the morning light, but her heart was heavy. Part of her wanted to stay home and forget about the gala altogether. What was the point? She thought when her sister had already gone there wearing a dress that everyone believed was hers. But another part of her whispered quietly, the part that had fought, worked, and dreamed for this moment. "Go." Grace came over that afternoon and found Amara still sitting there, lost in thought. "You're really not going?" Grace asked. "What's the use? Vanessa's already there. She's probably taking pictures, smiling, pretending everything is perfect. So you'll let her win again? You don't need revenge. You need presence. Go there and let the truth introduce itself." Those words resonated deep in Amara's heart. She looked at her reflection in the mirror. Simple makeup, calm eyes, and that gown that made her feel like herself. Finally, she nodded. All right, I'll go. By the time she reached the Lego's Elite Charity Gala, the place was shining with lights and music. Cameras flashed, and people laughed as they posed for photos. Vanessa was already there, standing on the red carpet with confidence, smiling for the photographers. She was wearing the gown she had stolen, showing it off proudly. Yes, it's custom-made by Tommy Attawale, she told reporters. I just adore his work. Influencers surrounded her, asking questions, taking selfies. Their mother, Mrs. Johnson, stood nearby, beaming with pride. That's my eldest daughter, Vanessa Johnson, she told a guest. Always so elegant, so graceful. The flash of cameras filled the air. Vanessa looked like she owned the room. Then a hush slowly spread across the hall. People began to turn their heads. Amara had arrived. She stepped through the entrance quietly, but the gown she wore caught everyone's eye. It was simple yet regal, soft fabric with golden embroidery that shimmered under the lights. The difference was clear. Hers looked more refined, more elegant, more real. Whispers began to float through the crowd. Wait, aren't they wearing the same designer? That one looks like the Attawale showcase piece. Oh my, she looks stunning. The photographers instantly turned their cameras toward Amara. Flashes burst around her as she walked calmly through the crowd. Her poise natural, her steps steady. Vanessa's smile faltered. She blinked, confused, then forced a laugh. Amara, what are you doing here? Attending. Like I was invited to. Amara calmly replied. Vanessa clenched her jaw, trying to maintain her smile, but her eyes betrayed her anger. Mrs. Johnson looked from one daughter to the other, her expression uncertain for the first time. Then, the music stopped, and the host's voice echoed through the speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the designer of the year, Mr. Tommy Attawale. Applause filled the hall as Tommy walked onto the stage, holding a microphone. Vanessa straightened her posture, assuming he might mention her. Tonight, I want to thank the women who inspire authenticity, who remind us that fashion is not just about what we wear, but about who we are. He paused and looked across the audience, his eyes landing on Amara. Then he smiled. And this is the true face of integrity and design. Spotlights turned toward Amara. Gasps spread through the hall. People clapped and cheered, cameras flashing like lightning. Amara stood still, humbled but radiant. Vanessa's face turned pale. Her hands trembled slightly as she tried to keep her smile, but her embarrassment showed. Mrs. Johnson lowered her gaze, realizing the truth she had ignored for years. Amara didn't need to say a word. The moment spoke for her. As the applause continued, she felt peace wash over her. She hadn't gone there to take revenge. She had gone to claim her place. Backstage, Vanessa stormed toward Amara, her heels clicking loudly on the floor. Her face was flushed with anger and humiliation. You planned this. You wanted to humiliate me in front of everyone. Amara turned to face her, calm but firm. No, Vanessa. You embarrassed yourself. Vanessa scoffed, crossing her arms tightly. You think you're better than me now? Just because that designer called your name. Before Amara could respond, Tommy Attawale walked into the room. He had overheard part of their argument. His tone was calm but sharp. Miss Vanessa, I think there's something you should know about the gown you took. Vanessa froze. What about it? Tommy sighed softly. The gown you wore tonight wasn't your sister's final piece. It was an unfinished prototype, a sample we use for testing fabric. It wasn't meant for anyone to wear in public. Vanessa blinked, confused. What are you saying? That's why the seams tore when you sat down earlier. Vanessa slowly turned, reaching behind her. Her eyes widened as she felt the ripped fabric near the back of her dress. Threads were hanging loose, the fine cloth already fraying. She gasped quietly, her face turning pale. Tommy looked at her kindly but firmly. Style can be borrowed. Character can't. The room went silent. A few staff members nearby had witnessed everything. Vanessa's eyes filled with tears, but she tried to maintain her composure. At that moment, Mrs. Johnson rushed in. Her expression was full of worry, but instead of comforting Vanessa, She turned angrily to Amara. Why couldn't you just let her have this one moment? She's your sister. Amara took a step forward, her voice quiet but steady. Because it wasn't hers, Mama. It was mine. And I'm done apologizing for that. Mrs. Johnson opened her mouth to speak, but couldn't find any words. For the first time, she looked at Amara, really looked at her, and saw the strength in her daughter's eyes. Vanessa stood frozen, humiliated, and defeated. The once perfect gown she had stolen now looked torn and cheap. Her hands trembled as she turned away. Without another word, she hurried out of the room, covering her face as cameras outside tried to follow her. Amara watched her go, feeling both sad and liberated. She didn't smile or gloat. She simply breathed deeply, letting the weight of years fall from her shoulders. Tommy gave her a small nod of respect. You handled that with grace, Miss Amara. She nodded quietly, then lifting her chin, Amara walked back toward the ballroom. Her shoulders were straight, her steps confident. The lights from the stage reflected softly on her gown, making her look like she was glowing. As she entered the hall again, the guests turned to look at her, not with pity, but with admiration. The woman who had always been in the background was now standing in her own light. Backstage, the sound of Vanessa's sobs faded away, replaced by the music and applause echoing from the ballroom. Amara had finally found her voice, and this time, no one could take it from her. Later that night, the photos from the gala spread across social media. Headlines appeared everywhere. The woman who outshone her sister without saying a word. People couldn't stop talking about the mysterious young woman in the gold-embroidered gown. Everyone wanted to know who she was. And soon, her name was everywhere. Amara Johnson. When Amara woke up the next morning, her phone was flooded with messages and notifications. Her work group chat was buzzing with excitement. Her boss had sent a message to Amara, you made us proud last night. The press mentioned our company name. Excellent representation. Amara smiled, hardly believing it. She scrolled through her messages. So many people congratulating her. People who had once ignored her now calling her an inspiration. Then she saw an email from Tommy Attawale's PR team. It was an offer. We would love to collaborate with you for our upcoming campaign. Mr. Attawale believes your story represents the heart of our brand. Truth, strength, and integrity. Amara covered her mouth in shock. She couldn't believe it. The same designer her sister had tried to use for fame was now offering her a partnership. Her phone started ringing again. This time it was her mother. Amara hesitated before answering. Your sister's been crying all morning. She feels terrible about what happened, Mrs. Johnson said quietly. Amara remained silent for a moment. I didn't know you had that in you, Amara. Her voice was softer than usual, almost uncertain. You never asked. Amara gently replied. There was a long pause. Then her mother sighed and hung up. Amara put down her phone, feeling strangely calm. A little later, Grace and David arrived with breakfast. Fresh bread, eggs, and juice. The three of them sat around her small table, laughing and talking about the night before. Grace raised her cup. To the woman who didn't need revenge to win. Amara smiled shyly. David looked at her, his eyes warm and proud. You didn't win by luck, Amara. You just stopped hiding. For a moment, Amara gazed out the window. The city was awake, full of life and color. She took a deep breath and smiled. Not out of pride, but peace. She didn't need anyone's approval anymore. Not her mother's. Not her sister's. Not the world's. For the first time in her life, she felt seen for who she truly was. And that was more beautiful than any gown she could ever wear. Weeks later, Amara sat at her desk, sipping tea, when her phone buzzed. It was a message from Vanessa. I saw the campaign. You looked beautiful. I'm sorry for everything. Amara stared at the message for a long moment. So many emotions filled her heart. Sadness, relief, forgiveness. She began typing a reply, then stopped. Instead, she opened her gallery and selected an old photo. One of her and their late father smiling together at a family picnic. She attached it with a short caption. He always said we'd both find our light. I hope you find yours. She sent it and placed her phone down. Across the room, sunlight streamed through the window, falling on the golden gown now displayed on a mannequin in her living room. The fabric shimmered softly, a reminder not of rivalry, but of growth. Amara smiled, her voice calm and filled with quiet strength. Some people wear your dreams like costumes, but when the truth fits, it never needs stealing. She turned toward the light, finally free not from her sister, but from doubt. Thank you so much for watching till the end. If you love Amara's story, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more emotional stories like this. See you in the next one. Bye.